Important breaking news from the world.
A woman hated Christians so much that she decided to pledge allegiance to ISIS and behead an innocent person. However, just as the female jihadist was preparing to carry out her gruesome plans, she saw something that immediately had her entirely rejecting her beliefs. Thanks to technology, news media, and mass migration, the West is being introduced to Islam like never before since the time of the Ottoman Empire's Muslim conquests. Instead of examining the religious texts to discover why so many followers become extremists, resorting to oppressive and violent tactics against religious minorities, we decidedly defend their ideology and appease their relentless compulsions, believing our own tolerance will fundamentally change 1,400 years of religious doctrine. Expectedly, our appeasement only further facilitates the so-called tiny minorities' progress toward total implementation of Sharia law. Fortunately, there's a cure for this radical takeover that was already proved successful centuries ago. Rita Chama was raised like many Muslim children, indoctrinated daily with the Quran and forced to adhere to Sharia law. Eventually, she became what Allah refers to as the preferred believer, willing to slay unbelievers and be slain pursuing the goal of global Sharia. At a young age, she dedicated her life to the caliphate of the Islamic State, hungry to behead her first Christian infidel, according to CBN News. "I hated people who weren't Muslim. I wanted to kill them," she says. The videos by ISIS inspired her. "I loved to see them bleeding. I was seeing videos of decapitation and loved it." Just when Chama was prepared to go out into the world and strike off their heads, as the Quran repeatedly commands, she mistakenly stumbled across a Bible and a stack of reading material her mother gave her. Believing that reading the idolater texts would make her case stronger against the hated Christians, Chama saw something that wouldn't allow her to ever look at the Quran the same again. After planning to behead Christians, Chama was shocked by the Bible's account of God's unconditional love and Jesus Christ's selfless example, which is a far cry from the Quran's teachings of Allah's hatred of unbelievers and the Prophet Muhammad's barbaric conquests. Immediately, Chama claims that she began questioning the hatred she was taught by the Quran and decided to leave Islam forever and become one of the Christians she had previously abhorred. "I started to read the Bible to prove to Christians that they were wrong," she said. "But I was wrong. And the grace of Jesus Christ started to touch me," she recalled. "I was reading things like pray for your enemies, love them, and I was someone who wanted to kill them," she added. "Intellectually I didn't want to accept Jesus, but Jesus started to do a work in my heart." Incredibly, Chama abandoned her dream of beheading Christians in order to become one of the peaceful followers of Christ whom she so despised. Although the Quran and Sharia law require the death penalty for apostates, Chama boldly converted to Christianity. Of course, Chama's spirituality wasn't the only aspect of her life that was flipped upside down. As soon as she confessed her new beliefs to her family, like so many ex-Muslims today, the relatives shunned her, refusing to speak with her because she is a hated apostate. After months of being ostracized by those closest to her, depression began creeping in. Chama explained that she only managed to overcome the suicidal thoughts that had plagued her during her entire life as a Muslim by submerging herself into the gospel. "Jesus was there with me. He was encouraging me. The Holy Spirit was really there. I felt it, I knew it." Determined to take the next step in her faith, despite her family's abuse, Chama requested that a preacher perform her baptism. However, the same forces of evil that afflicted Chama as a young Muslim girl surfaced in full force the moment her Christian mentor touched her. "I don't even remember what I did. I had to see the video of my baptism. I was completely crazy. The demon was crazy, it wasn't me. I kicked Jonathan, he baptized me. I kicked him." Chama began wildly flailing and screaming in a demonic bid to prevent the baptism from taking place. Although Chema desperately desired to take the leap of faith by displaying her dedication to Christ, she believes that a demon which had possessed her from a young age finally showed its face. Miraculously, the minister commanded the demon to flee and a calm Chema was baptized. After the baptism I felt like the heavy weight completely disappeared. And I was so excited to go and make disciples, she said. I started to want to talk about Jesus to everyone, even to the people who led me to terrorism. I wanted to go and see them, tell them that they are wrong, and that love is waiting for them. Now, Chema travels with gospel minister Peter Allman to witness to other Muslims, risking her life on a daily basis. Despite having a target on her head as an apostate in the Muslim world, Chema refuses to let fear of death threats stop her from leading others to Christ. Many times, the response to Muslims who have left Islam for Christianity is one of doubt and rebuff. However, those who reject the idea that devout Islamists can have their eyes open to the truth are undeniably rejecting God's power and promise to call on those who do not know Him. Chema's testimony is incredibly similar to the Bible's account of the Apostle Paul, previously named Saul. Before converting, Paul was a Pharisee who hunted Christians for a living and relentlessly persecuted the followers of Jesus with pleasure. Of course, God's mercy was revealed to Paul on his way from Jerusalem to Damascus to arrest Christ's followers. After having a vision of Christ, Paul abandoned his mandate from the high priest and rejected his respected status as an esteemed Pharisee to witness to other unbelievers of God's mercy. Eventually, Emperor Nero condemned Paul to death by beheading for his persistence to spread the gospel. Chema is not only a testament to God's mercy but an example of Islam's utterly contrary nature. While the Bible teaches of God's unconditional love and forgiveness, the Quran states that Allah does not love unbelievers. As Jesus modeled how Christians should behave by serving and sacrificing himself, Muhammad modeled how Muslims should behave by oppressing and slaughtering those who reject Islam.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel.